You grew up inside of a cult?
Yeah, so I didn't watch movies for 23 years. If you got caught on the internet, you were punished. You couldn't even hang out with your own sisters.
Your story's unlike anything I've ever heard.
You can't move on unless the prophet say you can. It was my desire to move on in life, to get a wife, to have kids, and grow a legacy. It was the day that we just left the religion with anger.
Meet Nathan Carlisle, once trapped in the cult, exposed in Netflix's documentary, Keep Sweet Pray and Obey. He broke free and built a thriving construction empire, and now shares raw, hard-won lessons with builders and entrepreneurs.
You know, you closed over $150 million in business. How did you build that?
There was one point in my earlier career, I was $350,000 in cash debt. I started in houses and I moved to commercial. So now all that I do is big multifamily and hotels. And I like to say your lessons of your past are more what not to do than what to do. I believe that if you have to persuade someone to buy your product, there's not a fit there. You have a desire, just go and do it. Nobody else is gonna do it for you.
What's a great piece of advice you got from that $400 million mentor that sticks with you?
One of the first things that he said to me was,
Before we get into this epic interview, I have one quick ask. The data shows that almost 80% of you guys who watch the show aren't yet subscribed. So if you could do me one quick favor and click that subscribe button right now, it would mean the absolute world to us. And with no further ado, enjoy the show. Hey guys, welcome to this episode of the Passionate Few podcast. Today we have an incredible episode as we sit down with none other than Nate Carlisle. He's an entrepreneur who's closed over $150 million in subcontracting in the construction space, but his story will blow your mind because he's going to share with us how he grew up for over 20 years inside of a cult and how he overcame tons of obstacles to get to where he's at today. So with no further ado, thanks so much for being on the show today, Nate.
thanks Omar for having me. I'm excited to get going here.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So before we get into, your business acumen and closing, 150 plus million in business, it's pretty impressive and we'll get to that. But first, you grew up in, we interview a lot of people who've come from humble beginnings, but your story is unlike anything I've ever heard. You grew up inside of a cult for over 20 plus years, man. Talk to us about what that was like, being born into that.
So the FLDS religion is an offshoot from the Mormon, the LDS church, and I was born and raised there. It's everything there. There's a lot of negativity out there about it, but there's so much good come from that cult. Like any other community, it was a very tight community, tight knit, where everybody knew everyone. It was.
You had 17 siblings as well, right?
Yeah, I had 17 siblings. My dad had 2 wives.
And you were the youngest of the 17?
I was the youngest of 17. My mom had 12 of that 17.
Wow. And so you grew up in that environment and it's normal to you? How many people are in that? Where are you guys based? Paint the picture for the audience.
Yeah, it's an interesting environment where, like today, I have my wife and I have 2 kids, and where we grow up, it was your dad, 2 or 3 wives. As we get going, I lived with my uncle after my dad died at a young age. Then I moved in with my uncle, and he had 3 wives.
Wow.
And there was a total of 28 people in that house, and so it was just always hustle, always busy. Everything was just a hustle. We grew our own food. We milked our own cows. Everything was we were really a tight-knit little.
How big was that
family.
Community?
About 5,000 people.
And this was based where?
In Hilldale, Utah, and Colorado City, Arizona, southern Utah.
And it was normal to you, you sort of were born into it, and so that was kind of all you know is what you know, right?
Yeah, if there was a man that didn't have more than 1 wife, then we always, in the judgmental attitude we had, if he didn't have more than 1 wife, we were always looked down on him, what was his problem?
Wow. And then fast forward a couple years, at what point do you sort of rebel and break from that? Because 23 plus years, that was a big part of your core identity, right? Was it something that you sort of played into for a while? Did you have inner thoughts about rebelling before you left? Or take us back to that time.
I was a part of it full-heartedly. I had all my brothers left the church The last one left right around 2012, and I was in it till 2017, 2018-ish.
Wow.
And I was in it for the long haul. It was my everything. It's like it's what you're programmed, right? And your fear that if you stray from that religion, you're going to hell. Like you're fucked. Like you better know what you're doing. And so I was very much into it. But the moments that led up to when I knew it was just a farce was, I mean you got to go back. So you couldn't get on the internet there. Like it was very strict. If you got caught on the internet, then you were punished. You were stripped from your community opportunities. You were judged heavily, whatever the case is. And there's two ways you got found out. You either confessed because you wanted to repent from it, and the other one was you just got caught. And so because of that, I never knew the truth behind why Warren Jeffs was caught. I never knew the truth of all that.
Who was Warren Jeffs?
Warren Jeffs was the leader after his dad. His dad died in 2000. I want to say 2001. It could have been 2002. And then he became the leader. And Warren Jeffs, he sits in prison in Texas now because of all his underage sex issues. He just horny AF. Didn't know how to keep it in his pants, to put it bluntly there. And so he sits in prison still, and I got crazy stories about that. But it's...
Did you like have a relationship with him, see him, know him regularly?
Yeah, so at age 13 and a half, then I was right there where young men are becoming men and they're maturing, and you get curious and start self-pleasuring yourself.
Sure.
And I mean, it was an obvious sin, and so I'm trying to repent. So I go ahead and write a confession letter. And I was living with my uncle at the time, and he read the letters, because the way it was is there was caretakers. He was my caretaker. He was in charge of me. Then there's the bishops of the community. There was a couple communities of the FLDS. And then there's Warren Jeffs. So we directed our confession letters to Warren Jeffs, but our caretaker read them and the bishop read them, and then they were forwarded to Warren Jeffs. And so when I confessed, then each step took. And Warren Johnson was my uncle that I was living with. As soon as he read that confession letter, he wanted me out of the community. He wanted me out of his family.
Wow.
And I'm talking a 14-year-old boy.
Who was just going through puberty, learning.
Going through puberty, learning what the old man does down there. And I mean, it was so intense. They would cover the bottom half of the mirrors in the bathrooms so you couldn't see yourself. You know, and quite interesting. I didn't know anything about it for so long. I just looked down there one day and I had hair. It's that taboo.
Yeah.
And anyway, so I'm getting kicked out. So Warren Johnson and the bishop at the time, Lyle Jeffs, wanted me out. So they kicked me out. Well, so I get packed up and I go to a job site from the job site, Warren Johnson, my uncle, was going to take me out to my uncle's house clear across my brother's house clear across the state. Keep in mind, it is a brother, right? But we were taught and programmed that as soon as they left the religion, they were damned. And if you associated with them, you were damned too. Like there was no recovery.
Right.
And so at a young age of 14, I'm being kicked out into an environment that I've been taught all my life was damning, and I was going to hell.
So you were terrified.
Oh, I was terrified. I was crying. I was on my hands and knees. It was luckily my ride that was going to take me up to northern Utah couldn't leave for a few days, and this is the relationship I had with Warren Jeffs, and so I had a couple days, and I did nothing but pray and study the scriptures and all that, the Bible, the Book of Mormon. Book of Mormon is an LDS, FLDS book. And so I had a couple days. I prayed really hard, and I got on my hands and knees, and it was a couple hours from when my ride was leaving, and the bishop called my uncle and says, hey, I got, Warren Jeffs had called from prison, because at this time he was in the Kingman jail. Because he got caught, went to Kingman jail, and then he went to Utah jail, and then went to Texas jail.
So he was already in jail at this time?
Yeah, he was already in jail at this time.
So how did, not to digress, but how did people in the community handle it if the leader was in jail? Did that in any way undermine the cult, the religion in any way, or not? People saw it as persecution of their leader, kind of?
Oh yeah, it was all persecution. It was all the government, the wicked, the devil, the LDS church. We all knew, whether it's true or not, we all knew that the LDS church was behind all the lawsuits against the FLDS and all that. It was the devil persecuting us.
And for you at that time, like when you found that out, he gets the call, what happens?
So he gets the call. I'm 2.5 hours away from leaving to go, and I was being damned. I was gone. I didn't know if I was going to turn to drugs.
And you're terrified.
I was freaked out. I was fucked. Like there was nothing left to do other than I just hoped God listened to me and answered my prayers. And so Warren Jeffs had called, it's unsure exactly what happened, but it came from Warren Jeffs. And he told the bishop, which was Lyle Jeffs, and my uncle, to not send me away. And when you hear, if you know anything about the FLDS, if you got sent away, that was a damning term. Like, and so I was being sent away, and Warren Jeffs stopped that. Now, there's no telling if I'd be where I'm at today if I would have carried on with that. But I have brothers that got sent away. One of them, it's a sad story, and we can get into it if you want, but that was my relationship with Warren Jeffs, about the only one. I shook his hand when I was a little kid. He was our prophet, right? And he was everything, and we're the Harvest Vest, and I knew he was over having breakfast one morning, and I was probably six years old, and I headed out, freaked my parents out, and I went over and shook his hand. So there was that one, and then when he saved me from being damned, I guess.
Wow. What happened to your brother, if you don't mind me asking?
So he was a struggling boy. He was just, I was the faithful one. Like, I was really trying to be faithful, except for my morals, mind you. But I was really the faithful one. He was a struggling one, and he just always getting into trouble, you know, drinking here, drinking there, off with the girls here and there. And there was Warren Jeffs had a supposed revelation one time, and in it, then, you know, scriptures are interesting because they're all about the interpretation, right? Like, everybody has a different interpretation of them. And in this revelation, then Warren Jeffs told the caretakers that if there's a struggling young person that won't straighten up, to go ahead and send them away.
Wow.
And when we left the church, when we heard that, my uncle went straightway and found my brother Josh, who I love to this day. We were tight-knit very much. We had our brotherly struggles like normal. He didn't even go home, and he took him out of town.
Wow.
He had one of his wives pack up Josh's things and throw it in the truck, and he went and got Josh and took him. And Josh, he had one hell of a life after and I knew about this, and that's part of what I was scared about. He turned to drugs. He was living on the streets part-time, you know, like, it was crazy.
How old was he when he got sent away?
15 or 16.
Wow. And then for years you didn't talk to him?
No, I didn't talk. I didn't talk to them. So after they left the work, is what we called it. or got sent away. I didn't talk to him for one of my business partners today is I have two business partners, two of my brothers, and both of them, I didn't talk to them from 2000, one of them from 2005, the other one from 2008, but both of them, I didn't talk to them until 2018 when I left.
Wow.
Literally no communication.
Wow.
We were going to be damned if we did.
And then so you stay in it for all that time period, and then I believe you met your wife at that time. Where did you, before you made your great escape, like where did you sort of evolve in your attitude towards being a part of the work?
You know, it's a very, I don't think there's anyone like me that evolved out of that the way that I did. Mm-hmm. I met my wife. We were working for the last company that I worked for before I started Tecton Framing. And I met my wife there.
And she was part of the community.
She was part of the community as well. And this was a community company where everyone there was believed in Warren Jeffs and all that.
Hey guys, we'll get right back to this video in a sec, but first I have a quick question for you. Given that the e-commerce industry is growing by the trillions year over year, have you ever dreamed of owning your own e-commerce business like many of the guests we've had on the show, but maybe you feel stuck on how to start? Well, if so, you're not alone. The truth is, starting and setting up your own online store can be incredibly time-consuming, complicated, and get expensive. Not to mention the hassle of researching top products and staying on top of market trends that make you money. Lucky for you, that's where today's sponsor, StoreBuild.ai, comes in. With StoreBuild.ai, you instantly get a free custom-built, AI-driven store loaded with 20 winning products and a custom theme that can help you generate sales. All you need to do is head to StoreBuild.ai, enter your info, then simply sign up to Shopify for free, choose your store's look and feel, and voila! They'll send you your custom-built store ready to generate sales. The whole process is lightning fast. Whether you're just starting out or want to grow, StoreBuild.ai makes launching an online store easier than ever. So why wait? Visit StoreBuild.ai and in less than 5 minutes, you could have the e-commerce business you've always dreamed of. Thanks to StoreBuild.ai for sponsoring this video, and now let's get back to the show.
And Warren Jeffs was the founder of the religion?
No, Warren Jeffs was the prophet. The founder was actually Joseph Smith back in the early 1800s, the same founder that the LDS had. And then they split off. They had people in the early 1900s that split off.
What was Warren like?
I didn't know him personally. Mm-hmm. And so I told you my side of Warren, which turned out to be very positive in my opinion. Mm-hmm. He saved me from I don't know what from. Mm-hmm. I know what I am today, and I like that. So I'm grateful. But he was very power hungry. When I pulled down the veil of the spirituality that religion brings to you, and just look at the religion as a business, because they always are. Mm-hmm. They're ran like a business, and the LDS does it well. They're worth a lot of money. But when I pull it down, he was just power hungry. He just was power hungry, and he had enough people that was challenging that power that was in the community, and people loved and knew, and he knew he had to send them away. And so he caused fear and doubt and uncertainty, and he caused, and he ruled by fear and doubt, because that's the way he could maintain his power. And obviously we can see it fails.
What were some of the rules you guys had to live by that the audience might be shocked to hear about or learn about?
It evolved, but what it evolved to is you couldn't even hang out with your own sisters.
Wow.
You couldn't talk to girls. Like when you talked to girls, it was taboo. Like you had to have a purpose for it, and then you moved on. If you caught to even talking to any girls, you could talk to your sisters. I'm just saying you couldn't. It got towards the end of it. It got to where you couldn't be alone in the living room talking with your sisters, or you would get in trouble.
Wow.
So it was very. I mean, they were trying to guard you from natural life, in such a way that it actually just made you more curious about it. It just worked the opposite way.
Wow.
So much.
And for you at that time, like, did you start to go, I want to leave this? Or where was the first inclination of like, wait a minute, maybe this life isn't meant for me?
So I decided to give up on trying to be something. My mom's still in the religion today.
Wow.
And she was asking me, because I take care of her. I have a successful business, and so I've retired her 8 years, and I just take care of her. And so she grudgingly talks to me still, you know.
Yeah.
And she asked me, says, Nate, why did you leave? Because, like, she out of all her children, she thought I was going to stay there forever. And I says, Mom, well, Mother, I says, Mother, I tried for 23 fucking years to be the best I could be there, and I never was recognized. Not once was I recognized for how loyal I was being. And at that point, I knew that if I wanted to have my life, I was going to have to take it in my own hands. Because there, it's all placement marriages. And you have to get permission and, like, all that. You can't move on unless the prophet or those in charge say you can. And so it was my desire to move on in life, to get a wife, to have kids and grow a legacy that started pulling me away. Interesting enough, we made the decision not based off our disbelief in the religion. We made the decision based on our desires to be something and create a family and grow together. And we didn't say one negative word about Warren Jess for 2 years after we were together, me and my wife. And because we didn't know where each other stood, because we didn't officially just say we're done, he's wicked, like we don't believe in him.
Gradual.
We just gradually, and just one day, then I think I let it slip, and she's like, "Oh, really? That's how you feel about Warren?" And then it just went off like that. But yeah, we made the decision based on our future, wanting to create a future.
Do you remember the day you and your wife left the cult?
The day that we made it official and decided, it was the hardest thing in the world for me to say, "Okay, I'm getting with Tammy," because it was so gradual. You ask about one day. It's when I decided to get with Tammy, my wife, and make us a girlfriend boyfriend. Then. Yeah, I very well remember it was about 8:47 p.m. It was very vivid in my mind. And I knelt down I had a massive master bathroom in my, and fun note, we were taught if we really wanted to pray hard, to kneel down on a hard floor. Because that pain of kneeling on the hard floor would bring attention to your praying and you wouldn't get distracted. Anyway, so I knelt down on the bathroom floor, and I wept in prayer to God that if this was the right thing to, because I had invited Tammy over to spend the night with me, and
You rebel.
yeah, I know, it's fun as hell.
So at that time, that was like so forbidden, of course.
You were done. If you did it, you were done.
So you were just like a little rebel in there, like, "Hey, Tammy, what are you doing tonight?"
Yeah, well, we'd sparked conversations and stuff, but this was
Yeah.
like, we knew if we crossed this line, there was no going back.
Yeah.
We weren't going to be accepted back.
Yeah.
And so I invited her over nonchalantly. I invited her over, and then
Nonchalantly.
I knelt down and prayed to God that if He wanted this to happen, to allow her to come over, like bring her over, and she did. She came over, so that was the day. That was the day that we just like, okay, we're doing this.
And how old were you guys at that time?
I was 23 and a half, 24-ish,
Wow.
around there. And she's 2 years older than me.
Yeah. Wow.
She won't believe she's 2 years older. She always just says, "No, I'm only, 19 months older than you."
Yeah. So you knelt down that night, and then you basically told her like, hey, like let's leave, or?
No, I mean, we just agreed that this is it. Like, we're
Yeah.
just going to gradually go. And one of my biggest successes in life and that brought me to where I'm at today is because I don't look at things negatively. I always look at what went right and what can I learn from it. What went right and what went wrong.
I love that. Yeah.
You know, and so that's the way I look at that religion. It's just like, okay, what are we doing now here? And because we chose to go together, we know we're not going to be invited back in the religion. So it was just a very intentional step by step. It wasn't we're leaving, rip our clothes off, so to speak. You know,
Yeah.
start undressing ourselves
Yeah.
and dressing like what we called the world, the Gentiles, whatever.
Yeah.
You know, it was a gradual, intentional, step by step that we did and got used to it. Another thing is generally when people would leave the religion, they would leave in a rage of anger. And I had such a disdain for that. I despised it, even to the point, even now that I'm not a part of the religion, I don't have that much to do with people that left the religion with anger. Because to me, it's just like, it was who you were. Look at it valuably, take the lessons from it. And I like to say that your lessons of your past are more what not to do than what to do. And just look at it that way, and you're going to come out on top. And so ours was a gradual. We didn't. I mean, we have pictures. We came down to California after we were together hanging out, and we have pictures of fully dressed, and she was in her prairie dress out on the beach.
Wow.
So it was a gradual thing. That was a memorable weekend.
And your ambitions at that time, was it, fast forward years later, you end up building this huge multi-million-dollar company. Was that something when you were inside the cult, inside the church, that you had ambitions for? Like, I want to get married, I want to become a multi-millionaire, I want to build something big? Or did that sort of happen gradually? Because it's quite an extreme sort of transformation. So I'm just wondering, where was your ambition when you were in the church? Were you even thinking about business? Or where did that sort of drive come about in that process?
The world was always going to end. Like, we only had a couple more years left. So the world was always going to end.
What do you mean by that?
So, it was prophesied and well known among the community that the destructions, everything was going to come down on the world, that the world is going to be destroyed by year 2000. And
Y2K, yeah.
yeah, and so it's, what's that movie? The 2012, the movie 2012.
I remember that.
That I watched. That was one of the first movies I watched because I didn't watch movies for 23 years.
Zero movies?
Oh, zero movies. Well, when I was little, tiny, young, we watched Old Yeller.
Yeah.
So little movies, Curious George was something I watched a lot.
Yeah.
And so, and Old Yeller. But those, Curious George and Old Yeller, were the only things that I ever watched as a kid.
So what was the other forms of entertainment? Reading, playing with each other?
Sports.
Sports.
Yeah. I played a lot of soccer in school.
Wow.
Stuff like that. Yeah, just sports.
Wow. And then so when you talk about the world ending, how did that inform or drive the business inside of you?
It's what kept me bottled down, So I went to 8th grade. And that's the extent of my schooling. And from there, it was just about getting out to work and make a lot of money, turn it into the church, because we need to be in a position to survive the destructions. And so I didn't have the desire as I was growing up till about 18 or 19, when I realized that maybe the world isn't going to end right now, and I need to make a lot of money. And if you don't mind, I'll tell a story about when I knew I needed to make a lot of money. It was about a year after I was being sent away, and at this time, I wasn't loved, I wasn't liked in the home that I was living in, my uncle's house. I was very judged and put down. and I came down with a toothache, and God, we all know how those fuckers are. And it was 2 weeks of just toothache, and my uncle just kept putting it off, thinking it was going to go away. It never did. And so we finally went to the dentist. The dentist said, you have 2 front teeth that need a root canal immediately because they have abscess, and it was too long before I got on antibiotics, so now it's turned into an infection. And the price for that back then, I think it's pretty expensive still, was going to be just under $3,000 to get those 2 root canals. Wow. And no, it's cheaper nowadays. And my uncle, I remember this, I'll remember this till the day I die. My uncle looked at the dentist and says, what's a cheaper way? And he says, we could put him on the strongest antibiotics we have, but he's a young body, and he's already been on pain pills for 2 weeks. And I mean, it's a difference between $3,000 and maybe $150 for all the antibiotics. And my uncle chose the antibiotics. So I was left to stay on pain pills and antibiotics for 3 more weeks before that pain went away.
Wow.
And I mean, it's wrenching pain, you know, and so I had 5 weeks there where I realized I need to make money. I need to do what it took to make money. And that's when the dream started. That's when I knew I needed to get out on my own and work for myself.
And years later, fast forward, you know, you close over 150 million in business, but it didn't start out that way, right? Did you go to work for another subcontractor? How do you get into the business whatsoever? How do you get into the industry? Like, what was step one?
Yeah, so step one for me was I didn't envision myself going to schooling, you know, doing college or anything. I always thought of myself just living reality, and school of hard knocks is the cliche word for it. And so that's what I did. I just went from one company to the next and moved up in all the companies. Every company I worked for, there was always a distinguishing moment where I knew I could go no further in a quick amount of time. Obviously, if I was there for 10 years, maybe I'd get further, but I didn't have that kind of time. I wanted to get going quick. And so there was 4 different companies that I worked for, and each company I moved up in, and then graduated, and the next company would hire me for the position I wanted, which was the next position. And ironically enough, like, I got to one company named BZI Steel. They're a nationwide, they do a ton of Amazons. I got there, and I loved the culture. I loved my boss, and they put me at the chief estimator in sales, and I was closing $10 million deals, and I was having a lot of fun.
Were you a natural at sales, or how did you build that skill set?
I think that I like to say I'm likable, and people just like me. So I'm not a skilled Grant Cardone type salesman at all. I actually I hate those kind of high pressure sales, but I can sell snow to an Eskimo if I want. So I'm a nonchalant salesperson, I would say.
What do you think is the key to a good salesperson?
For me, it's being real. Just be real. Like, I believe that if you have to persuade someone to buy your product, there's not a fit there. I don't think that you should buy the product. If you're having to be persuaded that you need a product, you don't need the product. And that's what I live by. And that's why I do well at sales in my industry, because we're only approaching clients that need our service.
What about people who say, well, you know, you can only grow the business so big if you're not, you know, actively prospecting people outside of warm leads?
Oh, we prospect all the time. Like, we have a system. I have 2 estimators, and then I'm the closer, because I mean I can close a lot of money in a short amount of period of time. I don't need to hire someone for that. I will in the future, but
yeah.
But what I'm saying is we prospect a lot, and what we call it is we get on their bid list. We go find them, we do our own research on the company that we're looking at, and if they do our type of work, then we call and get qualified and get on their bid list.
What do you think is the key to selling high level? Because it's one thing to sell, you know, $1,000 deals, $5,000 deals, $10,000 deals, a $30,000 car, you know, that kind of a thing. It's another thing to sell multi-million-dollar projects. What do you think is the difference between normal selling versus, you know, selling high level?
Real confidence. I can't tell you how many times it looked like a deal was coming apart, and I just called them and I says, "Look, guys, I know you're the customer that," and customers not in this way, but I would always just say something like, "I get it. I know you're my customer, and I respect what you're saying. But here's the truth. You're trying to beat us down," because subcontracting is always about beating you down, you know, trying to get the lowest price. I'm just like, "Look, you have a complicated project here. In all due respect, if you beat us down, you are not going to be treated like a number one customer. You're going to have our B or C team on the job, and where it's going to be change order heavy. So accept us at this price and have the confidence that we're not going to be bringing in change orders, and what you get, you pay for what you get for here." And it was that confidence of, I know your project. Trust us. Here's our history. We've done $70 million in contracts to date. Just trust us to get your project done, and quit trying to beat us down. I had one on a $1.5 million job just recently. They sent us a big laundry list of requirements before they would give us the contract. I simply called and I says, "Look, man," I didn't put it this way, but the way I'll explain it is I says, "You have a beautiful lady here that's just ready to get in bed with you. And then you have someone that mirrored me, an overweight lady here that wants to know everything about you before they get in bed with you. On the other hand, this one will just get in bed with you. Who are you going to go with?" You know what I mean? And so their laundry list was just like, "Can you bond the job? We need certified financials to verify that you're capable financially. We need all these references." If someone's asking for your references, they're most likely not going to use you. I don't like that. Like if they didn't do the research on you enough and you the research on them, if you didn't provide them enough information from the beginning that they still need references, it's not going to happen. So I just present it to them and I says, "Look, I'm not providing all this. I'm for sure not bonding your job. It's less than half of my average contract that you're asking us to do." And they just, they says, "No problem, we'll send you the contract." And they send it within an hour.
Wow.
So one of the things is, I like to say in my Bid to Win program that I have is, be open and honest up front with them, because they need to know that you have their backs, you know their project, and they also need to know that you can provide what they're asking. So let me go back, because I'm getting off track here a little bit, but let me go back. So in the bid industry, on the subcontractor side, it is very common for us to just throw numbers together based on, you know, I think I can do it for this, and throw the number out there.
Sure.
And as you do that, you're just a numbers checker. People are just looking at your number. Oh, you know, because in the contracting world, they have to get a minimum of 3 bids per scope. The bank requires that. And so you're just a numbers checker. They never intend to use you. So what I've found out is the more detailed and open and honest I can be on my initial contact and my initial bid, the more confidence that it gives them that I have their back.
That you're transparent and direct.
Yep,
yeah.
transparent. I know what I'm doing. I actually gave a shit about their job. I didn't just throw a blanket lump sum number at it. And that's what wins me the most bids, is my open and honesty up front and my frankness.
What do you think the biggest mistake most salespeople make?
Thinking that they need that they know more than you. Thinking that they know more about what you need than you know what you need. For instance, when I make a sales call, it's all about how can I provide with what I provided. Is that what you're looking for? Do you need any more from me to show that I'm your guy? And not being afraid to ask for it. One of the things that I don't like about sales scripts is you're generalizing your customer. And your customers are human people too. They're human. They love emotion, they love chit chat, they love that natural flow. And scripts take that away from you. So I'm sure that anybody listening and here can attest to when you get cold called about, insurance policy or life or health insurance, whatever, it's like, they're following a script. They're 100% following a script.
Yeah, good morning, so-and-so.
Exactly.
This is Tom from X. Yeah.
That's the biggest mistake. I don't like sales scripts. The real salesperson will take a sales script, generalize it in his brain. He'll tune his brain to, okay, this is generalizing, and then he'll take a personal approach to that sales script. But I can't remember the last cold call I had that wasn't just a script. You could tell they were reading a script.
And so for you, you start in subcontracting and framing, correct? For those that don't know, what is the framing industry in construction?
So this building we're in is a wood-framed building, and I'm just the framer to the wood frame. Wood frames, you see it all over houses. I started in houses, and I moved to commercial. So now all that I do is big multifamily and hotels.
And you started working at a company selling that before you later started your own, correct?
So framing was when I was the two companies that I worked for hands-on. So I weren't in their office.
In the sales.
In the sales and estimating for the wood framed companies that I was working for.
Hey guys, quick question. Have you been enjoying this video, but you're thinking to yourself, man, I love this content, but I want to learn how to grow my brand or my business? Well, if your answer is yes, you're not alone. In fact, millions of entrepreneurs deal with this exact same issue. And it's something that I've learned the answer to from interviewing 7, 8, and 9-figure entrepreneurs around the world. And this philosophy that solves all that is a concept called who, not how. Now, the who, not how philosophy states that anytime you're stuck on the hows to get to the next level in your life, your brand, or your business, that there's always a who to help you get there. And it's for this exact reason that I'm super excited to announce that I've officially launched our brand new Passionate Few community to help you do exactly that. And yes, it's 100% free. Join me and the thousands of other entrepreneurs that can help you make your life, your business, and your dreams a reality. With no further ado, let's get back to the video.
Okay, so then you work at those two companies, and then you sort of start getting momentum in sales, start getting success. Where's the point where you go, shoot, maybe I should start my own, and then you end up starting Tecton?
So it was a generic conversation with one of my best friends at the time. I was being frustrated because I seen some issues going on in the current company I was working for, BZI, and I tried to put my input in there to try to fix it, and I was shut down immediately, almost like I felt like it was a challenging, like there was no way they were going to let me involved because that would be too challenging to their authority, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. But I was being frustrated with it. And I was talking with one of my best friends. We were driving around. And he just looked at me and he says, Nate, you know everything you need to know to start your own business. Why don't you just do it? Why are you still doing that for others? And that was the moment. What I was getting at is when I started with that company, then I had no ambition because I loved the culture. I was having fun. And so I had lost the desire to start my own company at that point because it was a great culture. I was getting paid well.
Were you making good money?
Yeah, I was getting commission with a salary. At the time, I was making about $120,000, which that was 2017 for a 22-year-old, so that was pretty good. And my best friend just says, look, you just need to do your own thing. I know you can do it. You know you can do it. And my journey started there.
And then how long from that conversation till you actually started?
I moved really fast. It was 2 months.
So you quit right away, started your own, or?
I didn't quit. I made my intention known and says I'll still work here until I get my first job, but I plan on going.
And when you first started, like, did you have a lot of questions with subcontractors, jobs, et cetera? Or did you just kind of, burn the boats to figure it out?
I burned the boats and I jumped right in. So it was a saturated market. There was a lot of framers. Framing is a low overhead industry, and that's why a lot of people get in it and mom and pop. But I didn't intend to have a mom and pop type framing company. I was going to go big with it from the beginning.
So it's like a low overhead, high margin kind of industry?
Yeah, I would say low overhead, mid margin. If you make 15 to 20% on framing, you're doing good. And as you get bigger, that percentage goes down more because you got more overhead, obviously. Right. But I was all about going big. So when I started, I got accountants, I got insurance, all figured out before I even got a job. And so I started real. I laid the groundwork and went up from there. The one advantage I had is I had ran framing crews in the past, and so I knew a lot of companies that needed framing done. And so I'd just contact them and say, hey, I'm out on my own now, and let me know if you need any work done.
What was the biggest challenge in starting your own business?
Money.
So you had no capital?
I had no capital at all, and hindsight, I made a terrible deal. But I went and found somebody with capital. We knew of each other, but we didn't know each other personally. And so I had that going against me, but he had money. And so I offered $7,500 for 15% of my company.
For $7,500? Wow.
Today, that's worth 1.3.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. I bought him out, luckily.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well, it goes deeper than that. So I offered him 15% for $7,500, and then I says, but because I'm being so generous, then you have to open up a personal line of credit for me at 15% interest. And 15% interest for a line of credit for a brand new company is really fucking good. And he agreed to it. So, and I paid interest. There was one point in my earlier career I was $350,000 in cash debt.
What kind of stress was that like?
It was day and night. I mean, there was I can't tell you how many times I laid awake at night thinking, I could just go work for a company and tell all my friends that I owe money to that I'll pay them off eventually.
Yeah.
Like it.
So you were just borrowing like from wherever you could to keep the dream alive, to keep it afloat.
Yeah, and I didn't need to if I wanted to stay small. Like you don't, like framing's low overhead. Like you don't need a lot of money. The $7,500 investment that I got bought me all the tools I needed for a year or two. I didn't really need any more tools. It filled my trailer full and got me going. And residential pays quick, so I was getting a paycheck every 2 weeks for my business. But I wanted to go big. And to go big, you need capital. And so, to me, when I hear people say you don't need capital, that's bullshit. You need capital.
And what did you use the capital for? Just hiring the right people?
Hiring the right people. As you get into commercial, you're out 30, 60 days before you get paid. And so there's some of our jobs. There was one of my jobs, and this is the most extreme I dealt with. I was out $1.5 million before I got my first pay.
And you had to float all that.
And I had to float all that. So it's huge cost to going big in construction. Massive cost.
And God forbid something goes wrong, and there's some sort of issue or some sort of whatever, then you're in some deep shit.
Yeah, you're in deep shit.
So going back to that Nate who was, $350K in debt, stressing out, I'm sure, nail biting. What advice, being on this side of the fence, would you give that young Nate who was staring up at the ceiling thinking, how the hell am I going to get out of this?
Borrow 600,000 next time. I'm all about go. I feed off that stress.
Yeah.
If it.
No pressure, no diamond.
Yeah, no pressure, no diamond. I was sitting with a mentor of mine that sold his business for $400 million a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He was in my office mentoring me, and he grilled me really hard. And after it, he's just like, "Well, sorry, I grilled you so hard." And I says, "Look, man, I get a high off you grilling me, because I'm not gonna get where I want to go if I don't get grilled by people who've been there."
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the stress I'm in. I'm not in a lot of financial stress nowadays.
Mm-hmm.
And so I put myself in other stress, and that is being grilled. I love being grilled by people that know more than me,
Mm-hmm.
My mentors.
What's a great piece of advice you got from that $400 million mentor that sticks with you?
Know your limits. One of the first things that he said to me was, he says, Nate, I lost 3 fortunes in my career. And I turned to him and I says, honest question, Frank, am I gonna have to lose 3 fortunes? And he says, you will if you don't intentionally go through the hard times. And that was odd to me. He says he almost lost 4 fortunes, but he caught it soon enough, and he intentionally put himself through that before it was too late. And so I asked him, I says, so what if I just outgrow myself wisely? Would that put me, because as you grow, if you grow too fast, you're low on cash. You're borrowing cash, and that puts a lot of stress. Mm-hmm. It's a lot like losing a fortune. You're out of money, you don't know what to do, right? Mm-hmm. On one hand, it's intentional. On the other hand, you're caught with your pants down. Mm-hmm. And so that's been my strategy, is when I feel like times are too good, I'll just grow more so I can learn more without losing everything. Because the problem is, the way nature goes is you're leveled out, things are going good, you get comfortable, and you start losing track.
Yeah.
And so you just fall off.
Yeah. Entropy, right?
Yep.
I believe it's the law of entropy. It says that the nature of the universe, everything moves towards chaos. Left to its own device, everything reverts back to chaos.
Yeah. And so I create that chaos intentionally instead of letting it just happen.
Instead of life creating it to you.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that.
And that was the biggest thing he told me. Create the chaos.
Yeah, that way you have some sort of control over it rather than being at the effect of it or the reaction of it.
Exactly.
Yeah. 100%.
I see right behind you have the 10X hat. That guy, Grant Cardone, love him or hate him, he just creates chaos.
Yep.
And to me, that's why he's where he's at today, is he's created that. And everybody looks at it and thinks he's being aggressive and condescending and everything. But no, it's just how he works. Mm-hmm. He needs that chaos to be at the top of his game.
You know, it's funny. He told me one time, there's 2 occasions. One time he was doing a 10X event at the Marlins Stadium in Florida. Mm-hmm. And I was interviewing him, and he was sitting there, and it was me, him, and Ed Milet, and they're just smoking cigars. And he's talking about how he wants to sell, thousands of tickets to the event. And Ed goes, well, how many have you sold so far? And he goes, a couple hundred. And he goes, dude, the event's like a month and a half away. What do you mean a couple hundred? You got to sell like tens of thousands of tickets. He goes, yeah, I don't know. We'll figure it out. And then Ed, and I witnessed this in front of my own eyes. And Ed goes, aren't you stressed? He goes, yeah, but stress is good, man. Someone's got to do it. And he's just playing card, So it's just like living with the stress,
Yeah.
Sort of accepting it instead of shying away from it. That was one occasion. Another occasion recently when I had him on the show here a couple months ago, he was talking about potentially running for, California leadership, right?
Yeah.
Governor of California. And so I'm talking to him off camera after, and I go, Grant, what makes you want to do it? He goes, man, my wife told me not to. My CFO, my CMO, my COO, all my executives, all my staff, my lawyers tell me not to do it. And he goes, but man, I just need new games, man. I get bored playing the same games. I already conquered the real estate fund. I'm the number 1 sales training online. I'm the number 1 most followed, business guy. And he goes, so I just need new games, man. it's my ADD. And I was just like, that's really what's driving you? He goes, yeah, man, I just need bigger games. 10X, right?
Yeah.
So to him, it's like, I think you nailed it perfectly. It's like create your own chaos. because if you don't, little by little, you'll slide off the mountaintop.
You see it all the time. Like businesses come up here. The book Good to Great explains it perfectly. That you just got to create your own chaos.
And what do you think it is, for example, nowadays, as you look at the landscape of business and entrepreneurs, a lot of men and women, watching the show at any phase of life or any stage of life, they might be watching this, they might be inspired by your story, but maybe they feel stuck right now and they want to get to that next level, but maybe they have limiting beliefs. I'm curious, from your perspective, what do you think makes a difference between people who sort of get stuck in life and never quite go for it versus the ones that sort of pierce through and end up turning their dreams into reality?
I think it's so cliched that we overlook it, and that is just show up. You have a job description, you have that desire to do it, and the 90% of the problem is you don't just do it. You just need to show up. It's limiting beliefs or limited beliefs because you don't believe it, and you don't believe it because you've stopped thinking that you can do it. And the way that you get through that barrier is prove to yourself that you can do it.
What's the biggest limiting belief you've had to overcome to get to where you're at today?
It's interesting because I felt like I was going to, and this might sound, I felt like I was going to create a culture around no culture. Like,
right.
You come to work, you get paid, you have opportunity, you're self-motivated and everything. And I had a belief that parties, company outings, stuff like that, that didn't need to happen. And quite frankly, it was, and you asked a big question, what's your biggest limited belief? It was that. I felt like that was not needed to create what I needed. And I kept going through people coming and going. And I have 2 or 3 people that have been with me for 7 years. But I just got lucky with them, and they don't need that. But the majority of people need that community feeling. And it wasn't until I just bit the bullet. And how I ended up doing it is I'm just like, okay, I'm not going to organize it, but I'll participate. So I just hired someone to come in and organize all of our company parties and all of that together. And now we have a great culture that's openness and honesty and working together.
I love that, man. And you're also starting to build your personal brand online, share more about your business acumen, and also helping people sort of learn how to sell, persuade, and influence. I know you also have your Bid to Win program. What is that about, and what can people take from it if they want to learn more?
So the thing that I like to say is all good people, when they get a little money, they want to give back. And sometimes the giving back takes a little money to keep giving back. And so I created the Bid to Win program with a great friend of mine, Kaylin. And she actually came into my business, and she has a program called Persuasion, Sales Through Persuasion. And she came into my business, and we created a mindset. I don't call it a script. I call it mindset sales. And it basically, it helps. It helped one of my estimators go from 0 to he's already sold $2.5 million worth of work in 6 months.
Wow.
Because he was able to use that script that we compiled from my experiences in bidding and selling from the bid standpoint, and her persuasion program together, and we said we really had something here. So we launched what we call the Bid to Win program. And
who's the program for people
the
interested?
program is for subcontractors. We thought really hard, who are we going to market this to? And I said, Kaylin, I can uniquely help subcontractors, period. Subcontractors, not contractors, subcontractors, because that's what I am. That's what I've done. My whole tailored system together is around the subcontracting and proposing to the contractors. For instance, when I started my company, I was bidding my first commercial project. I lost $150,000.
Wow.
My first commercial job, and it's because I didn't have a system together to bid it accurately. I could have spent 2 weeks to bid it accurately, but I didn't want that time, so I just threw it together and got the numbers together and then sent them a bid, and then I was underbid and I got it and lost $150K. And so what I've created a system that took, the old system took me 2 weeks to bid a $2 million job. Today I can bid that in 3 hours.
Wow.
Because of the system. And I obviously use a program that I'm not going to say here, but I use a program, and I went in the back of that program and I've customized all my takeoffs and everything together with the current market. And you have to update it every once in a while. But now I can bid that in 2 to 3 hours.
Very cool. And where can people, if they want to learn more, find out about the Bid to Win program?
So it's on my link in my bio on Instagram on Real Nate Carlisle, and then also bidtowin.com.
I love it. Nate, any final words of wisdom for our audience? They can like, comment, subscribe, follow you down below, but any final words of wisdom to people out there?
You have a desire, just go and do it. Nobody else is going to do it for you.
I love it. Nate, thank you so much for being on the show, brother.
Thanks,
been a pleasure.
Omar.
Thanks so much. Guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, and also follow Nate down below. Until next time, live strong, live with passion, and we'll see you guys on the next inspiring episode. Thanks so much, Nate.
Thank you.